Hey everyone, Entast here, and I wanted to talk about Xiao today because I've been looking at some of the numbers, I've been looking at different pieces of gear, and I'm really confused about how to actually build him, and I want to explain why. I want to show you a little graph, I want to show you some sets, and I want to talk about Xiao because he's very interesting. And Swirl is a bonus, and the amount of animo damage he does is a bonus, but I wonder, is he better suited to not use the Viridescent Set and ignore Swirl? And I want to explain why. Now, if you look at Swirl, you've got Swirl damage is based on your level, okay? So this is going to scale up with your level. You've got your base amount at 80, you got your base amount at 90, and if you get Elemental Mastery, that will give you a percentage increase, right? And that's awesome. That's really, really good. And if you go back into here, if you look at the Viridescent Set, this increases Swirl damage by 60%, and that is pretty cool, okay? It decreases the opponent's elemental resistance to the element infused in Swirl by 40%. That's awesome. But I'm wondering, will this be an average set on Xiao? Now, Xiao infuses all of his damage into Animo. Right? He infuses all of his damage in Animo. If you've got an Animo cup, this is amazing. But this side of it, the Viridescent Set, obviously the 2-set piece is really good, but I'm wondering, is this a waste? Now, if you use someone like Venti, who is repeatedly swirling, obviously you're going to get some benefit there, but the big one is decreasing opponent's elemental resistance to the element infused in the swirl. This hints that you would want to swap off Xiao if you used it, and then use a different character to do damage. But you don't want that to happen. You want Xiao to do all the damage. Well, this 4-piece set, other than increasing the swirl damage by 60%, it doesn't really do anything. And here is the problem. Yes, you're going to be increasing this damage, but when you're stacking a bunch of crit damage, attack, crit chance, when you're getting the extra animo damage, this 568 damage is peanuts compared to your main DPS. And I worry that going with the Viridescent Set isn't as good as people would think. And I want to talk about it, okay? I want to talk about it. Now, there's multiple sets in this game. And I'm wondering, would it be better to stack attack, get your animo damage cup for sure, but if you use the Gladiator set, you would be getting 35% more damage on your normal attacks. Almost like a razor. You would use the Gladiator set, and you would get a ton of damage here. 35% extra damage thrown on top as a multiplier. I honestly think something like that might be better. Even though you're tanking your animo damage for the 2-set piece, I think that this is long-term probably better damage. Because you're giving 35% more damage on the bigger part. And I want to give you an example of that, and I can do it right now with Venti with one usage of his E, okay? So I have about 100 Elemental Mastery right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit him with a Mona ability, and then I'm going to swirl him. And I want you to compare the damage between his E and the swirl, okay? So I'm going to get him wet, I'm going to hit him with that, I'm going to go like that. 1,000, 300, and was it 23? 1,300 damage for the swirl, but I did 8,000. I did 8,000 with his E ability. Right? I understand that this is a skill ability. It's not his basic attack. But if I do this, once again, we're doing, well, I didn't crit that time, but we're doing more than double the amount of damage with the ability. Here is my worry, gamers. Obviously with Xiao, he's going to get damage multipliers. It's going to be on this basic ability, but he's going to get damage multipliers. He's going to have this plunging damage. He's going to have the animo damage on his cup. Xiao is going to do so much damage with those plunging attacks and basic attacks and the animo damage added on that the swirl that's happening is going to be, in my opinion, an afterthought. It is going to be such a fraction compared to what he can do with his other abilities that I wonder, is it better to max out his damage with those attacks or the swirl? And I don't think the answer is the swirl. I think that you know, the Viridescent giving him 15% more animo damage is really cool. But honestly, if you just go with the cup, if you just get the cup, and you get that 46.6%, I'm wondering if that is going to be stronger. Because there is a lot of areas in the game where Swirl doesn't even do anything. So if you look at slimes and kind of elemental creatures in this game, Swirl does nothing. It is immune. You can't actually do any damage with a Swirl. I'm going to do this right now. Right? If I hit him with an E, immune. Right? If I hit him with a Q, immune, 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 immune. But that animo damage is still trucking them. That animo damage is still hitting really hard. And here is the pro, and here is the con of our boy Xiao. Xiao can do any dungeon in the game. He can smash any dungeon in the game with his base damage, with his animo damage. It's just the Swirl will be useless. And that's not the end of the world, but if you look at Diluc, he can't do really fire dungeons. He's going to be absolute trash. Mona can't do this dungeon. You know, if you're doing a bunch of electric damage on electric slimes, well, put Lisa away. She's doing trash. Now, this is the beauty of Razor. Razor does a lot of physical damage, and he's good pretty much everywhere. I feel like Xiao is going to be the same thing. He's going to be a hyper carry that you can use pretty much everywhere. Is he going to be perfectly effective against all the slimes? No, he's not. He's not. But, you know, Razor isn't optimal everywhere. He's still an amazing character. And I think that our boy Xiao is going to do the same thing. You're going to be able to use Xiao the way you would use Razor. Pretty much everywhere. Pretty much all the time. He can be a super greedy character that is out there doing damage with animo all the time. If there are some random enemies within the slimes, cool. If you get some elemental reactions going and you get some swirls off, cool. But if you build Xiao just to hit like a truck, I think he's going to be very, very valuable and much like a Razor more than any other character in the game. Now, does this mean you shouldn't use your God-rolled Viridescent sets? No. But if you do have some really good Gladiator sets, you might want to consider testing that as well, instead of being hell-bent on using Viridescent. I see some major potential here getting that extra 35% damage, because it's going to scale really nicely on Xiao. The other thing, too, is I would be looking for a crit damage and crit chance over getting stuff like Elemental Mastery, because I feel that he's going to scale much harder building for that hyper carry damage than anything else in the game. So I wanted to talk about Elemental Resonance as well. Now, you'd probably be able to set up this Frozen if you wanted to, but for me, in my opinion, you want Xiao to be on the field the majority of the time doing damage, right? He is a hyper carry that is going to be out there absolutely slapping. And so I have a recommendation for you. You want people that have passives. You want people that have, stuff that's going to help him boost his attack. A really good example of someone who would passively help him is Xiangling. Xiangling, when she uses Gooba, it drops that little chili, which will give him attack, and he can kind of stay out on the field. She can also use that Pyro Tornado. That would be super valuable. You could use Bennett and his Q ability to boost his damage. I think Bennett and Xiangling would be absolute bangers because you would get this fire attack. You would get that attack bonus. But another one that has been on my mind and super valuable is actually the Geo Resonance once it gets the buff in 1.3. And I honestly think this could be the meta. Now, here's why. The Resonance is getting changed to just give you an overall damage boost as well as some tankiness, right? But if you look at the constellation, Invincible Stonewall, party members within the radius of Wake of Earth have their crit rate increased by 10%. Now, here are my thoughts. If you went with main character, Xiao, Xiangling, and Bennett, you would have attack boosts from the Resonance of Fire, you would have attack boosts from Bennett, you would have some passive fire damage that you could swirl, but also you would be getting this 10% crit rate increased at all times, which would be very, very valuable. Now, if you had someone like Zhongli, you could swap things around, and what you could do is you could use Bennett for the attacking boost, you could use Zhongli for some passive damage, as well as the debuff that he's going to be getting, because he's getting a debuff. And then you could use the main character for the crit. And then you would get the Geo Resonance for more damage. And then you could leave him out on the field pretty much the whole time doing damage while the enemies are debuffed, while the enemies are having trouble doing any damage because you're shielded. And that would be really good. because Xiao is going to lose HP while fighting. There is some major potential here to absolutely force Xiao into his hyper carry role, where everyone else is just supporting him, debuffing him, giving him more damage, and it would make Xiao absolutely bonkers. So those are my main thoughts on Xiao and kind of the artifacts to use. I need to obviously test this out, but it is something that I've been really thinking about lately, and I can't wait to see how it actually performs. I know that Xiao is a lot of people's favorite character. They're very excited for him. They've been saving forever. And, like, again, my video talking about him and roasting him, it was just a meme, guys. Like, it's literally just a joke. And I'll have a video on him in just a couple of days showing him off for you guys. Thanks so much. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I will see you soon, my friends. Bye-bye.